Have you ever noticed that some customers will buy really quickly when they visit your website? Maybe they've clicked on an ad or they've discovered you from social media, and very quickly after they visit your website, they will buy from you. And then you've got some visitors, probably most visitors, they're customers who will visit your website multiple times, maybe over several weeks. Maybe they'll hang around on your email list for months even. And then maybe they'll finally decide to buy during a major sale event or something like that. I mean, on the one hand, this is exactly why we do things like retargeting ads and email pop-up forms to really invite and entice your website visitors to subscribe to your list so that you can follow up with them after they leave your website. But I mean, still, what gives? So the other day, I had one of the most interesting conversations I've had in a while with someone about this exact scenario. And I discovered that there is, in fact, a whole lot of data about these two distinct buyer types. So, whilst the economic environment is certainly making many consumers rethink and pull back on their spending, this isn't necessarily true for all consumers. And you've probably noticed this just intuitively anyway. Bucking the trends of frugality and motivated by a desire for maybe more premium brands and experiences, these kind of top spending consumers are really driving discretionary spending at the moment, and they're creating almost like a fast lane in what is really a two-speed economy at the moment. And I think it goes without saying that all of us in business, we want more of those kind of fast and top spending customers, the ones that are going to make quick purchase decisions when they discover the right brand or product for them, and less of the ones who dilly-dally and hang around for weeks and months until they maybe get a big enough discount. But before we dive into this really juicy topic, and I've got some good stuff for you on the show today, I want to tell you about my new free resource that I have just published, and it's my Christmas campaign planning guide. So, very timely for this resource. And in it, I go through my 6 steps to nail your Christmas promotion, including everything you need to know to run a wildly successful Christmas campaign for your e-commerce store. We all know quarter 4 is the biggest revenue time of year for e-commerce. So I think you want to go and get this resource. And honestly, I know that this episode is going to air before the end of October, so it might feel like it's a little bit early yet, but there really isn't a lot of time left before the silly season's going to be upon us. So I do think you really need to get onto it right now if you haven't already. So if you do want to go and download a free copy of this resource, all you need to do is go to my website, catherinelangman.com, and then go to /Christmas. But we will include that link in the podcast show notes page as well. So back to our topic, and I want to call these two buyer types our fast buyers and the laggards. I know there are much more precise and researched names and descriptions of all of this. We might dive into that another time, but I just really want to talk about this and how you might be able to position your brand to attract more of the ones who are spending at the moment. The fast buyers are generally a more socially progressive and higher spending segment of consumers, spending about 300% more than what I'm calling the laggards. They tend to make more emotion-based decisions about their purchases rather than logic-based decisions. They're going to care more about whether something is perhaps the best quality rather than the cheapest price, right? Whereas laggards are going to make their purchase decisions definitely based on logic. They're going to make their decisions based on the desire to save money, and they do tend to be very considered about their spending. So these people will include your discount shoppers, definitely. But even when they do spend money, these people often feel a bit guilty about it. I'm thinking about my mother-in-law here. She'll tell you that herself. I'm not being mean. So the situation is this: your top spending segment, these fast buyers, might represent a quarter of consumers, but they spend more and more frequently than the laggards, and they are less discount driven in their purchase decisions, and they tend to become, the very loyal customers, the brand loyal customers. So that means these customers are going to be the more profitable ones for your business if you can attract them. And as you can imagine, if all you do with your marketing and advertising is talk about the practicality of your product, what it is and what it does, or you offer lots of big discounts, then I'm guessing you can probably start to figure out which kind of customer you will and won't be attracting. So, how do you go about attracting more of these lucrative fast buyers? So the specific detailed answer to that is definitely going to be different for each brand and each product type. However, there are going to be some commonalities. So that's what we're going to stick to in the show today. And so I want to get you to start by thinking about how someone might engage with a brand emotionally. And for me, this means storytelling, particularly visual storytelling, given we are operating an online business model. And when it comes to brand discovery, social media is generally where it's at. So, things like styled lifestyle images and video content, user-generated content, all of that kind of stuff. Definitely also storytelling through words, though. So catchy headlines, product descriptions, calls to action, things like that. In the past, and I'm harking back to the 90s when I went through university, traditional marketing advice was to describe a product's features and benefits. And in this way, we would tell customers what our product is, what it does, and why they should buy it. Very practical stuff. But there's a big problem with this, and that is these kind of customers that we want, our best customers, they don't really want to buy something because of what it is and what it does. It's far too logical and makes the very big assumption that our customers will, figure out for themselves that your widget will solve their problem. And that's a very big assumption, leaves a lot of room for error. And I would say that this tactic really has zero value with your best customers. They're not going to care if you sell your widget. They're going to care about finding the absolute best product or service to help them meet their own problem or need. They want one that's going to fit their values and also their ego, their personal identity. A lot of people unwittingly, probably, they do have a certain status that they want to aim for, or they ascribe to some kind of personal identity. And I'm going to dive into this a little bit more and give it some context for you. But have you ever heard of the phrase, possession is 9/10 of the law? In my world of marketing and selling online, I would say perception is 9/10 of reality. And this is why storytelling and really getting the visual and the written messaging just right is so incredibly useful. Now, what are you going to tell stories about, you might then ask? And I think at this point, you need to think about who is this right kind of customer for your brand. The right customer fit is really going to have a shared set of values with your brand. And I remember a while back interviewing Julie Mathers, founder of Flora and Fauna, and now, of course, CEO of Snuggle Honey Kids. And she spoke passionately about how integral their brand values were to their entire business growth strategy. And their values literally informed every decision that they made. And in fact, the data about business backs her up. Values-driven consumption in retail is growing and growing over recent years as consumers desire to align themselves with brands and companies that really do share their values, their social, political, moral, and other values as well. People are re-evaluating and reprioritizing their values and moving away from pure consumerism and towards more values-based and purpose-driven spending. So nowadays, it isn't just a nice to have fad. Building a brand around strong values and purpose really is proven to deliver better business results. Now, just a caveat there, of course, I'm talking about these high spenders, right? I completely recognize that not everybody in society has the ability to be so discerning about their spending. Some people definitely just have to take what they can buy. I'm not talking about those. We're talking about these fast spenders. Statistically, according to research company Forrester, almost 4 in 10, 37% values-driven companies deliver double-digit growth compared with only 32% of companies overall. So definitely they have the advantage in terms of business growth. And according to consulting company Accenture, 63% of consumers prefer to purchase from purpose-driven brands. And even 80% of consumers say when they buy from a brand that aligns with their ethics and values, they feel like they are actively doing something to help have a positive impact. So communicating your brand values and purpose in your marketing content really does give you that competitive edge and attract this more lucrative, profitable audience, So it's helping your customers to engage with and relate to your story and tap into their own desire to make a values-led purchase decision. Of course, knowing the impact that their purchase is having means that buying from you feels much better than supporting a business that is driven purely by money. And I think that competitive edge isn't reserved just for new purchases either. Data says 66% of consumers would even switch from a product they typically buy to a new product from a values-aligned brand. So customers might seem loyal to another product, but with a values-driven brand, you can count on some brand betrayals in your favour. So with all of this statistical and empirical evidence, it really is pretty clear that from a revenue growth and profitability perspective, you are wise to take this kind of approach. And as Richard Branson has been quoted as saying, the brands that will thrive in the coming years are the ones that have a purpose beyond profit. So step number one then needs to be finding out what is actually important to your ideal customers. And I want to use myself as an example here. Now, those of you who know me know that caffeine practically runs in my veins. I've been a coffee lover for as long as I can remember, starting out with decaf iced coffees that I made as a little kid. I would even sneak the ice cream into that when my mum wasn't looking. But many years ago now, I reckon it would have been 15 years ago, I bought my very first beloved Italian-made espresso coffee machine. At the time, I called her my third child. I then did actually have a third human child after that. But, absolutely loved this machine. Had it for nearly 10 years until she had a fatal heart attack when her boiler blew up. We had moved states and the water here is very hard and we didn't know we had to take care of her in a different way. But luckily coffee machines are replaceable and I now have a fabulous Profitech machine, which is German made. It's all chrome, looks a little bit like a rocket ship sitting on my kitchen bench and I absolutely love it. It makes the most fantastic coffee. But since that very first machine purchase, 15 years ago, I have bought a lot of coffee products. I've bought coffee grinders, brushes, tampers, beautiful coffee cups and jars. I've even bought a professional coffee making course. I assess things not just based on quality and taste. I definitely make my choices about beans for those reasons, but I also review the provenance that they come from so that I can really make sure that I'm buying fair trade and sustainably. That's really, really important to me. And ideally, I want my coffee beans to travel the smallest mileage possible before reaching my kitchen. And I'm now getting beans that are grown in Australia and roasted locally to me. So I'm a happy camper and they're delicious. But I didn't, of course, buy all of this at once. It has been a journey over time of 15 years, but I do typically look for these high quality things that really last. And I'm definitely very fussy about the coffee beans and the milk that I use. I've even got a professional grade water filter now in my sink, under my sink, so that my current coffee machine doesn't suffer the same fatal demise as my previous coffee machine. And I love it, right? So the place that I bought all of my coffee products from educated me in the beginning about coffee and all things coffee using really engaging content. I would read their emails, I would watch their videos, sometimes I would visit them in store. And all of this content really helped me to feel like a true coffee connoisseur, which is exactly the kind of identity I wanted to have. And I would buy and I would buy and I still keep buying. So, this is the kind of customer that we all want for our brand. But how do you get to know your ideal fast buyer customer as intimately as this? And the answer to that is you need to do the research. So you can start by surveying your repeat customers to gather as many insights from your best customers possible. A special survey just for those customers who have bought from you twice or more, perhaps making sure to ask really good questions, some open-ended questions about their original need, frustration, or pain point that led them to buy from you in the first place. And, by listening to what they say, you're going to be in a much better position to be able to communicate meaningfully with them, to create marketing content that actually attracts and engages them and communicates the right information that they really want to find out from you and via the right channels in order for them to be able to make a purchase decision in your favor. And now I'm quite aware that doing a survey is something that a lot of business owners really don't love to do. A lot of business owners can be a bit hesitant about this. I remember when I was in the early stages of my first business, I didn't really want to do one either. I felt like it would come across like I was pestering my audience and that it would be really annoying, like it used to be annoying when I was growing up and the telemarketers would phone out the house at dinner time and ask market research questions. And I also felt as though, as the business owner, I should already know the answers anyway, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's the type A perfectionist in me, I guess. These days, I call myself a recovering type A personality. It's not a trait that is super conducive to success as an online entrepreneur. Anyway, what I've learned over the years is that many people actually love to share their opinions and their thoughts and their experiences. Obviously, if you don't have a database of repeat customers, you'll need to do your best to identify who you think might be your ideal customer type and get a bit scrappy and hustle the best you can to do the research. And of course, you can also buy data like this as well from reputable sources, of course. And for those of you who are considering, in our programs, we teach a very specific market research process that really is going to help you to have all of the right information that you need for this purpose. But really, the aim of this research is to learn, first of all, what their pain points are, because this is what's going to help you to understand your customers' initial motivations and the desired outcomes that they really want to experience. And you want to understand the rest of their buyer journey as well. What is important to them whilst they're considering what they're going to buy? Where do they go for that information? Why do they choose to buy what they buy? Are there factors that contribute to that decision or that help them to weigh up one option versus another option? What is the biggest deciding factor? And to attract this quality, lucrative, fast buying customer base, that deciding factor can't be price, right? What benefits do they hope to get or experience from the products that they buy? When you discover the most important characteristics and values shared by your ideal customers, then you will know what kind of content, the storytelling content, will resonate with that audience. But authenticity is really key here. Whatever you choose to say in your marketing content must actually be genuine, because any suggestion of greenwashing or fake statements or platitudes on values that are upheld or not by a company. I mean, if you don't truly believe it, if it's not genuine, you will be exposed. Customers aren't stupid, and customers will likely seek a different brand or retailer if that scenario transpires. And you see a bit of this sort of thing happen when brands or businesses say they're gender inclusive or culturally inclusive, either maybe in their hiring processes or wage equality, or of course in their marketing as well, by adding in people of different cultures or genders or abilities. But for some brands that practice this, it's quite tokenistic and it isn't really true. And, I really believe that customers can sniff out this kind of inauthentic behavior a mile off. But additionally, we all now need to keep in mind that a lot of consumers feel unsure whether what they see online is actually real, or was it created by some kind of AI bot? So how can you show the unfakeable in your content? You want to keep this at the forefront of your mind as you use storytelling in your marketing to deliver your content in a really interesting way. And just, remember, it's through telling stories that our audience, our best customers, can really relate to your brand and your products. I like to think that while headlines might capture people's attention, stories capture people's imagination. They help the customers to see themselves in the story, and it also helps customers to remember. The recall rate is a lot higher through storytelling versus through facts. So the more accurately you can describe the problem, need, or desire that the person has that you're selling to, and speak to them about that in a really emotional way and really in line with their values and their ego. And that means to be able to describe exactly what they're experiencing right now, then the more automatically they're going to believe that you have the solution to their need in the form of your product. And then try to impart this through telling stories, real stories, either from your past customers or from your own experience, combining your imagery, your visuals, your video, as well as your text, of course, to tell your story and take your customers on a journey. And when you do truly know who your customers are and what makes them tick, you get to be like the coffee merchant who won me over so many years ago and who's probably been laughing all the way to the bank with all my many purchases ever since. So I'm curious to hear from my audience on this episode. I'd love to know what you think about this concept of the fast spenders and the laggards and the different mindset in related to how they make these purchase decisions, and whether it makes you think about the way that you're doing your marketing and advertising. And are you attracting the best quality customers, or are you not? Do you need to do things a little bit differently? So give us a shout out. And of course, if you are ready to learn some new and different skills and really become a master of e-commerce, then hit us up. You can book in for a free coaching session by heading to katherinelangman.com/free-coaching-session. And, look into whether you're a good fit to work with us in our program. That's it for this week's episode. Really hope you've enjoyed it. And I look forward to being back on the show with you again next week. Bye for now.